Great, thank you. All right, Council, I'd like to call this regular council meeting of February 10th, 2026 to order with adoption of the agenda. So you want to make that motion for me? Councillor Orlando, Councillor Palmer, all in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of January 27th, 2026. So we'll move that, Councillor Palmer, seconded by Councillor Cherry. All in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'll just go on to announcements from the mayor. Business licenses are now overdue. We're into kind of a grace period where we're not going to charge any fines, but there is a 10% penalty on your fees. So I understand there's about 20% still outstanding. So if we could get those paid, appreciate that. We are coming up to dog license renewals due on Monday. So just encourage people to get those done. Get your lifetime dog license. I believe it's $89, and just appreciate you doing that. Also coming up is the police versus firefighters hockey game. There's a 50-50 draw for that going to Trees for Tots. And in my stead, acting mayor Councillor Palmer will be dropping the puck. So just encourage everyone to get out and see the game. If I'm correct, it's February 15th. Is that correct, Councillor?
Yes.
Councillor Cherry, thank you. So just if you can do that, support that. If I was home, I'd be there. So great. We're moving on to delegations and presentations. So we have Taylor Sandell from the Revelstoke Visual Arts Center here. So Taylor, if you could come up to the podium, we'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Hooray. Cool. Okay. Thanks so much for having me. If anyone has any burning questions along the way, please pop your hand up. There's of course a section at the end. Just bear with me if it takes me a moment to catch up. Hello, my name is Taylor Sandell and I'm the Executive Director and Curator at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre. I've been a part of our organisation since 2021. However, I recently stepped into the ED role of May of last year. I'm here today to give a recap of our 2025 calendar year and just kind of quantify the services we offer in Revelstoke. I don't believe anyone from RVAC has ever formally presented. So again, please let me know if you have questions. We are a very small but mighty team at RVAC. My role is full-time, but the lovely Kira somehow manages to do all of our workshops and a lot of our gallery prep on only 25 hours a week. And unfortunately, the funding for Rachel's position will end in April. So looking forward, our strategic plan does include an increase to staffing. Our current workload is not sustainable, but luckily we do have very strong volunteer support. Like many charitable nonprofits, a big part of the reason we can offer the services we do is in thanks to our volunteers. And a special thanks, of course, to Council Representative Councillor Cherry. Some quick highlights to start us off here. The Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre has been serving the community for 21 years. In recent years, we've seen a huge increase in engagement from our community. In 2025, our membership increased by 24.44%, which is an increase I'm really proud of for a community of our size. Now, when I made this presentation, we were still finalizing our final artist payouts. The final figure for instructor fees, gallery payouts, and gift shop payouts was actually $69,263.20. So this is money that's all being generated from Revelstoke's art and culture scene and being paid out directly back into our community. In part, this is done for our gallery, which was visited by 31% of tourists this last year. Now, the gallery isn't the only service we offer to the community. I'm going to be giving a high-level overview of each one of these sections today. But to start, I will start with the gallery. So I think it's important to note that the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre is Revelstoke's only public art gallery. The space at Mackenzie Village is a commercial gallery, which means the work they choose to display is based purely on what sells. The space downtown here is a co-op, which means it's still sales-based, but it's run for local artists. As a nonprofit community gallery, we are community focused. So while gallery sales are always nice, it's not necessarily our main goal. This allows us to bring in a broader range of media on a diverse range of topics. We serve as a space to educate and inspire without needing the financial barrier of a commercial gallery. In fact, our vision is to foster a united creative community, creating lasting change through education, cultural exchanges, and a sense of belonging for all. Similarly, ARVAC provides the only opportunity for local artists to be able to display an entire body of work. We also bring in high-quality out-of-town artists to diversify Revelstoke's cultural offerings and ensure our community can access work that is fit for a national gallery. One of the biggest pieces of feedback we regularly receive from our out-of-town artists is how engaged our art community is. You can see it at opening events, just how well attended they are. I'm just going to touch on two of the points here that I think really speak to that high level of engagement. One, our highest selling artist for 2025 was local Indigenous artist David Walker, who in his 4-week exhibition took home roughly $5,000. The biggest opening event was another local artist, that's Herbert Bambi. That very first opening night, she brought in 241 visitors, and that's a mix of ages, both locals and visitors alike. On to workshops now. So workshops are a big part of what we do at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre. It provides another form of revenue for our nonprofit, but it also contributes to our goal of educating, inspiring, and upskilling the community. Some quick highlights. In 2025, we had a 4.5 stars in an anonymous feedback form, and that's actually consistent with 2024. So I believe that shows a high quality of offerings for our workshops, as well as our commitment to provide them at an affordable rate. Our centre does make a really conscious effort to ensure that our programs are offered as accessibly as possible. And I think that will be shown quite well in our next slide. We also provide facility space for other nonprofits so that they're able to fundraise and share their mission as well. So this is just a super quick glimpse at the workshops we offered in 2025. Everything in teal was free or subsidized, and everything in orange was a sold out class. Again, I think this shows the community is really receptive to what we're offering and that we're doing it in an accessible way. Now, in amongst all these facts and figures, I do really want to highlight the impact that we're having to individuals in our community. It's one of my favorite parts of the job is seeing kind of the growth and change in our individual artists. Personal favorite of mine from 2025, there was an artist who, after taking our 4-week creative writing class, felt empowered and had the skills to go on and finish their first novel. Last time I talked to them, they're actually about to send it to an editor, which is a really big achievement. Moving on to community studios. So at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre, we host the Pottery Studio, Woodshop, Printmaking Studio, and coming soon is our Artist Hot Desk. All of these spaces focus around giving our community access to specialized equipment at an affordable rate. So starting with the Pottery Studio, this is another space that's seen incredible growth over the last few years. Last year, we received 1,638 bookings, with users ranging from beginners to professionals. Since the studio opened, we've served as a space for potters to hone and grow their skills. Potters like Susie Cathell, David Walker, and Monashi Pottery all learned and upskilled in ARVAC and have benefited from ARVAC's affordable access. These artists and many more have now expanded to full-time production artists, selling work within our community. Monashi Pottery specifically, she now focuses on large quantity custom orders, providing saleable goods for many of the high-end restaurants in our region. Moving on to the woodshop. So the woodshop's a bit of a mix. It's used by professional carpenters, cabinet makers, knife makers, and a huge range of individuals producing saleable goods. It is used by hobbyists and local homeowners, improving local housing stock as well. So the woodshop is a huge area of focus for our organization. I think has a lot of potential for growth and change. Currently, it is run by volunteer staff member Ken Talbot, who's been part of the center since we began. However, we do need to start looking at transitioning Ken to a paid role as we have to begin succession planning. It's gone a little bit of attention here. The last delegation was presented by Okanagan College, and they touched on the labour mismatch that Canada is currently facing in the skilled trade sector. The woodshop is a fantastic, friendly, low-pressure environment for people to begin honing their skills in carpentry. Councillor Palmer, I believe it was you who highlighted the young labour force we have in Revelstoke, and RVAC already interacts with quite a lot of those members. I think there's a lot of potential for this centre to kind of act as a gateway to woodworking and allow users to upskill in town rather than taking their work outside of the community. Onto the printmaking studio. So this is the newest addition to RVAC's community studios. It was chosen specifically for its accessibility as a medium. It is available for a wide range of ages and different skill levels and doesn't have a huge material cost that can often be a barrier. We recently ran our first workshop in this space. It was a technical workshop focused on copper etching, and 3 out of the maximum 8 students were visitors from town, with 2 people traveling to Revelstoke specifically because we were able to offer the specialized intaglio printmaking techniques. Alrighty, private studios. So this is actually the last offering I'm going to touch on today. Again, the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre offers Revelstoke's only dedicated artist studios. These are spaces that are long-term rentals available for local artists at a subsidized rate. RVAC has a really long history of providing incubation spaces for local artists, allowing them to grow and shape their practice. Currently, among many others, we house Marie Moose, one of the owners of the local co-op. She produces all of her goods inside RVAC. Similarly, you'll see Calica Jewelry and Violet Jade Co. They're prominent features in our local markets, especially in the height of summer tourism. I also want to not so subtly point out how these incubation spaces have already contributed to our local economy. Alongside the full-time potters I've already mentioned, RVAC has supported artists like Kat Cadigan. So Kat had her studio at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre for many years. She only moved out when she'd expanded to the point where she needed a bigger space that was able to house more specialized equipment. In fact, the reduced rent meant she was able to put her profits into hiring more staff and expanding operations. As you all know, Kat Cadigan is a prominent business in Revelstoke's downtown core, but she had humble beginnings at the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre. Looking ahead, our strategic plan focuses on stability, both financially and operationally. We do need to ensure our organization continues to thrive in an unstable funding landscape and global volatility. But the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre is seeing incredible growth in community engagement. We just need to make sure it's managed in a sustainable way. So among other things, our organization is making better use of our facilities, further connecting with the downtown core, increasing staffing, and making use of RVAC's diverse tourism offerings. So one final point for me here. The Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre offers year-round activities, low-budget opportunities, activities for people with diverse accessibility needs, and activities that are not weather-dependent. So these are actually all weaknesses that were highlighted in the City of Revelstoke's resort development strategy and assets the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre offers as a strength. That is it from me. Thank you so much for learning about how we contribute to the community. I'd be more than happy to give a private tour to council at any point, or if you have any questions, just let me know. Thanks.
So, can you just stop sharing the screen, please?
Oh, yes.
Thank you. Great. Now I can see everybody. Council, any comments, questions for Ms. Sandell? I think Councillor Palmer, go ahead.
Thanks. Thanks, Mayor Souls. Thanks, Taylor. Well done, the presentation, very artistic and very professional, and well researched as well as getting the information. I'm just going to pick up a little bit on the Okanagan College, so you referred to that. Mm-hmm. Is the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre would they be interested in partnering with Okanagan College, or is that premature?
I did actually send them an email after the last meeting. So the space we're in at the moment, the woodshop's kind of just been sitting there doing its own thing for a really long time. Part of what I want to do is just give a lot of love and attention to that space. So at the moment we host a women's specific Intro to Power Tools class, and that sells out every single time we run it. We are currently in the process of hiring an open gender males intro to woodworking as class as well. So we're already expanding that way. But I am definitely open to partnering with the Okanagan College as well. I think if we've got a facility that we can offer and it's something our community needs, I don't really see why not.
Right, okay. Yeah, I tentatively plan on meeting with Dr. Bassina. And so I'll raise the topic if that happens.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions from council? Taylor, I want to say thanks for the presentation. Councillor Orlando, I see your hand down.
Yeah, sorry, I'm behind the lectern there. Yeah, thanks so much, Taylor, for the presentation. Very great, and all the work that yourself, the board, and the staff there are doing. I've been attending shows down there since 2008, I guess, and it's just fantastic to see the growth. It's real, incremental year by year, growth and improvement with your offerings from what it was back in the day. I remember my last term on council, one of the questions we were faced with is what to do with the facility, the old RCMP building. And one of the concerns was that it was going to be, more cost than it was worth to put into an old facility. But through the partnership, after moving forward with it through the partnership, I just want to point out how much the organization has contributed to that by finding grants, by finding improvements, by continually improving on the building and everything around it, including the garden space. So I'm just glad that we decided to do what we did at that point. One thing I was hoping to sort of ask right now is, over the next coming months or maybe the next year, will you be looking for any decision points or new directions or anything from the city or council on things related to your operations or coming up? And I'm just wondering if council could get a little bit of a preview of some of the issues or decisions we might be facing going forward.
I know I'm not allowed to officially present anything to you, so I will send an email for another day. Definitely one thing I will be reaching out about is one of the biggest struggles we face is that we're a 4-minute drive from here to the Revelstoke Visual Arts Centre, which in Revelstoke world feels just impossibly out of the way. And a lot of people we serve are youth or adults or tourists who kind of depend on that alternative transport. So we will be reaching out just as you go forward with future planning to see if there's any way we can continue to connect back with the downtown core, even if it's just bike lanes, additional signage, public transport. I do know that there is the new sign that was added in the most recent development. That's fantastic. But if you miss that very last turnout on the roundabout, people get shot onto the highway. We often have a lot of people coming back being grumpy about they had to do creepy U-turns on the highway. All that to say, definitely be reaching out about infrastructure upgrades. I think there's a lot of potential to kind of connect tourism offerings as well with the downtown core and Arbac. Other than that, I think just keeping an eye out to how much the arts and culture scene does contribute to our community here. Like you said, I think when you first started, the arts was maybe a bit smaller and not quite as well developed. But over the years, even since I've been in town, it's grown to such an incredible core part of what we do here. I personally believe it's not just downhill and mountain biking and skiing. That's the only thing we do in town now. I really think arts and culture is a core part of what we offer. The years I spent at the front desk, people from Nelson would always come and say how artsy Revelstoke is. So sorry, back to your original question. I think for council just to be able to take a moment as you go about your day to really see how much art and culture there is in our community. I will send a formal request for that.
Thank you. Mayor Solis.
Councillor.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up. Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for the response. I'm looking forward to hearing out more in ways that we can partner and help with your requests. And just one last comment, one of the things I've always said to everyone who works down there or volunteers down there that's important to me just personally is expanding into those commercial offerings, getting bigger and growing and offering things. And noting the co-op as well as the private galleries, as well as the new makerspace downtown, pottery spaces. I mean, there's 3 or 4 more I'm not talking about right now. It has grown substantially, and many of the names associated with all of those can, I think, had their start, at the Visual Arts Center and continue to have involvement is there as well with the various exhibits. So just being that hub for all that growth in that positive direction that contributes so much to the community is so fantastic. So thank you for coming down and presenting. I really appreciate it.
Other comments from council? Taylor, I want to say thanks for what you do and how you're embellishing the art in our community. It's much appreciated. Just want to confirm that everything that is on display in the Public Art Gallery is also for sale, correct?
It's a bit of a mix. So we do offer things for sale, but artists can also choose to mark things as not for sale. And that might be because it's sold in a previous space, or it might be because it's so personal they're actually not willing to part with it.
Okay.
So it can be for sale, but it doesn't have to be. It offers a lot of flexibility.
Awesome. Thanks for that. All right. Thank you again. Appreciate it. Any last comments from council? Say none. Thank you again, Taylor. Appreciate it. All right, council, I'd like to move on now to staff reports, corporate general local election appointments. Ms. Floyd, do you have comment before I ask for a motion?
Thank you, Mayor Sells. So historically, the corporate officer and deputy corporate officer have been appointed as the chief election officer and deputy chief election officer. So the report in front of you is it's prepared in that way. However, there are options for council to choose to contract out or to appoint alternate election officers.
Great, appreciate that. Councilor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'll put the recommendation on the table that pursuant to section 58(1) of the Local Government Act, Cindy Floyd be appointed Chief Election Officer and Janet Dessau be appointed to Deputy Chief Election Officer for the purpose of conducting the 2026 general local election.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Councilor Lusau. Any further discussion on the motion? Councilor Cherry.
Do you guys want the job?
It is part of our in our job descriptions. And we have experience doing it, and we would be happy to. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are moving on to SILGA resolutions. We have a number of them. Council, do you want to go through each one individually or put them through as a group? Do you have a preference?
Individually.
Okay, so let's go through the first one. Councilor Luciao, is this your resolution?
Yes, it is. Should I put it on the table to discuss?
Yep.
Okay. I move that the following resolution be submitted to the Southern Ontario Local Government for consideration at the 2026 conference, food recovery, collection, and disposal fees.
Seconder for that motion. Councilor Stapeners, discussion on the motion. Can you elaborate, Councilor Luceau?
Yeah, so food recovery programs work within our province. They support food banks, homelessness and transitional housing, vulnerable populations, mental health, school lunch programs, and other nonprofits. Some of these programs operate distributing anywhere from 60 to 100% of food recovery food. Some of these are collecting in excess of 1,000 pounds daily from for-profit food businesses, with some businesses collecting in excess of 1.7 million pounds of food in 2025. They receive no funding for vehicle maintenance, insurance, or fuel. They're run mostly by volunteers, with some of them operating at a 1 paid employee to 50 volunteer ratio. And they're not receiving any monetary contributions from food businesses that they're picking up from. They do have ways of disposing of things through animal feed programs, but some of them are experiencing up to $1,000 a month in disposal fees for organics, cardboard, and recycling packaging that they divert from the main landfill stream. It goes towards the vulnerable population. There's one organization in BC that has diverted last year 11 million pounds of organics back to different food recovery programs, saving over 7 billion liters of water from produce that wouldn't have been harvested and distributed to the population. So I hope that council can support this resolution coming forward to offer a small financial contribution towards these food recovery programs.
Comment from council. Anyone have anything to say? Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Through to Councillor Lucio. Thank you for the resolution, working proactively on that. Last UBCM, you and I attended a recycling program in Victoria, which was quite amazing. My question to the chair for you is, this really makes sense to me. I'm just wondering if other food recovery programs in other communities, have you touched base, or is there any input from other?
Yes, so through the chair, I reached out to, there is about 100 food banks that operate within the province, as well as multiple different food recovery programs that either operate independently or offer assistance to food bank programs. So that's where I've been collecting all this data.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, just a question regarding this. How would this coordinate with existing organics or recycling program? I know we're getting closer, have some things in place and getting closer to doing more, like just in terms of operationally. I'm just trying to understand what the interface would be like.
It's more to offset the cost. So a lot of these food recovery programs track how much food they are collecting. So given how much food they're collecting and diverting, all of them are experiencing anywhere from between 25 to 50% of unusable food that they're collecting from these for-profit businesses. So just offering a rebate to offset some of their collection fees through organic recycling, cardboard, and garbage.
And yeah, Mayor Souls, if I may, just in terms of, are there any existing programs? It seems like, yeah, if you're collecting food that ultimately ends up in a recycling or organics program, that, you know, you'd have to account for that cost, you know, doing that right now. So is there anything currently in place, any other rebate programs or similar kinds of situations?
Through the chair, no, there aren't any programs set up like that. There's only one organization that's gotten back to me that when they started required monetary donations from the businesses they're picking up from. But everyone else that I've talked to does not receive any monetary donations. They are just receiving the recovery from businesses.
Thank you.
So this program, Councillor, is a new funding stream that you're asking for through the government. So basically what started years ago as retrieval of this food to give to those who needed it is now overwhelming, and we now need to deal with the waste. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right, thank you for that. Any other comments from council? I'll call a question on moving this forward to SOGA. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Moving on to the second one, the old growth. Councillor Palmer, is this your motion? Do you want to speak to this?
It's wholly supported. I think Lucio officially.
Sure.
Okay, Councillor Lucio.
I move that the following resolution be submitted to Southern Ontario local government for consideration of the 2026 conference, improve old growth ecosystem conservation.
Okay, seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Staplener. Any further discussion on the motion? Councillor Lucio, weigh in.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. As I'm sure all of you have seen, a bunch of support letters come through from our community. This area in particular, the Rainbow Jordan, is inland temperate rainforest. We're very lucky to live in it, and I think we should be doing things more actively to advocate for its protection as well as old growth ecosystems within our province.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I will. Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, Yeah, my thought on this one is, I feel that if you want to be successful, if we as a council have this as a goal to be successful in creating a conservation area, such as referenced in the Jordan area, that it would be better to wait and do some prep work ahead of time. We are, one thing I want to point out is that all of these resolutions are just sort of lobbying resolutions to the provincial government, the local association, that kind of stuff. And they have limited effectiveness. As we all know, a lot of them kind of get there and go nowhere. We don't hear back from them. One of the challenges we've had this year is, UBCM has tried to reduce the number of resolutions coming forward. So there's that sort of juggling between moving it to SILGA or in the wording moving it through UBCM, which I don't know is that effective. One of the things, I guess my concerns is that I don't have a good sense of exactly what we're talking about here. We've been on council for over 3 years, and really, if you look back at the paperwork of everything we've done in all our committees, I don't think this has appeared anywhere at all. So when we talk about conservation area, what area is in question? It really raises questions to me about what we're talking about here. This resolution references the inland temperate rainforest, which is a huge area that goes north to south. It classifies it as a red listed area, which I don't think is in fact correct. There are red listed areas, but that's not how the provincial government defines these things. So some of the concerns I have is specific, like we haven't reached out on consultation for even, next to us over there, we have area B where this is located. I'm not sure what the status of coordinating with them is right now with the area director. First Nations consultation is a really important part of anything that we do. And I think a first step as we're bringing this forward is to do a little bit of work and outreach to find out what is going on concurrently with them as we move forward. So I think that we've received a lot of letters from people talking about their support for this. Many of them came prior to actually hearing the resolution and what it is. So my concern is that without these answers, it's really hard to even define to the provincial government what we are looking for. One of the concerns about how it's worded is I feel there's not a specific ask in that the provincial government can see this resolution and simply write a letter back saying, yeah, we're doing all those things, there's not like we want X, Y, and Z as a deliverable to us. I think they're going to have difficulty when this goes to Treasury Board to understand who is in there now, what are they doing, what is the cost going to be, or even what kind of conservation effort we want to see. There's regional government parks, there's conservation parks, there's public use related parks. I don't know that that is defined in here and that we have done the work. I think that, I think that really the best thing to do if the goal is a conservation area is to hold off, to put some work and time and effort in the next 6 months on this side of the term to champion this, and maybe even in an election, you're making an election issue that this is something I've got behind and I have the support for it. I think what happens to most resolutions, and I think what the most likely sort of pathway of this one is, it gets to provincial government, we get a sort of letter saying, thanks for coming out, we're looking into it, but there is no direct follow-up to that. I think having the community behind it and really having much more input and understanding and technical knowledge, which we don't really have right now, what is the 10-year situation? What is the current conservation situation? What is, existing conservation overlays on the area? What is old growth there? All these basic questions. I can't point to anything that we've produced or has been brought into our work as a council that will bring this forward. So lastly, I wanted to say that, as we went through these processes, it's sort of like, last meeting, I put up my hand saying, who are the interested parties to be consulted on this? And it was sort of ambiguous. I wasn't one of them apparently. And I would encourage, council members to reach out, because part of like it being successful at Silga, being successful at UBCM, and then, enacting this or working towards getting this is building a team, building a group effort, getting people on board towards whatever goal you want to be at. And I haven't seen that. So that doesn't give me as much confidence moving forward. I'm committed to helping out with this effort in the next little while if, either this passes or this doesn't pass, but I would ask for some outreach, and I think that's going to put it on a much firmer basis. I don't know that there's anything impending right now that is going to lead to, areas that want to be conserved to be used otherwise or within the next year. And I think we'd be in a much stronger place a year from now moving forward in that direction. So on that, I don't really think I can support this. I don't think it's the best way forward, and I don't think it's going to lead to the meaningful, conservation effort that it's intended to bring. Thank you.
Councillor Cherry, and then at some point I'll wait. Councillor Cherry.
Thanks, Worship. I just want to say that I've consulted with both councillors on this one as well as Wildside. I do believe Area B Representative Michael Brooks Hill will be bringing this to the CSRD after it's supported here at this table.
Okay, so that's David Brooks Hill.
Yes.
Okay, and has industry leaders been contacted regarding tenure?
Is that
I
towards
take
me?
that as a no. Okay, all right. Any further questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Note Councillor Orlando is opposed. As he stated, balance of council is in favor. This motion moves forward. Moving on to the next one, brain injury supports. Whose motion is this?
That's, I guess mine and Councillor Stapenhurst kind of co-sponsor this one.
Do you want to put the motion on the table, please?
I will. We move that the following resolution be submitted to the Southern Interior Local Government for consideration at the 26th conference. Brain injury supports.
Okay, seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Stapenhurst, brief me. Councillor Cherry, Councillor Stapenhurst, fill me in why we're doing this.
Just pulling it up. We were contacted by the executive director at the Brain Injury Alliance regarding this. Sorry, I'm having a little trouble pulling it up right away. Tabs open. You want to jump in here for me?
Yeah, certainly. I can speak to this really briefly, although I wasn't quite prepared. The Brain Injury Alliance reached out to us due to the fact that the impact that brain injuries have and the lack of diagnosis and the impacts that they have on housing and societal forms. So I think that this is a worthy cause. It has been brought forth in a different resolution to UBCM prior. And I think the advocacy for those facing these types of injuries is a worthwhile cause. And I would hope that everybody at the table supports this. Thank you.
So just some questions for you. Years ago, I worked with someone who was dealing with people who had suffered brain injury due to work. And this was in the Golden area. And I'm not sure what the funding source was to keep their organization alive. Is that kind of what we're doing, is trying to find some sort of funding mechanism to support those who go into therapy because of a brain injury? Or is this just a general term saying, government, come on, get with it?
If I can, this would be more financial supports into the mental illness, brain injury cause, rather than it just going into housing and funds being lost downstream.
Great, appreciate that.
More than just therapy.
Okay, good. Nope, appreciate the comments. Any other comments from council? Councillor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'll be supportive of the motion. So it's good. I'm supportive of the whole concept. A couple of questions to the councillors. It seems to me that this was almost identical with previous motions at UBCM. I think last year. So I'm just wondering in that context, it was a referral. It might be something we look into a little bit more detail.
That's something I have to look into more detail. We did get a bit of wording back from UBCM think there was a couple word changes. Sorry, Silva.
Sorry, Councillor Cherry, through your worship, yes, Silga did provide some suggested changes. Ms. Delaselle could put the track changes up on the screen if you would like.
Okay, Ms. Delasall, go ahead, please.
And then, Mayor Souls, if I may, just a secondary.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, again, supportive of it. Again, with the changes with UBCM on the rules coming out of last year, it was supposed to be within context of local government, generally across the province.
Right.
And this is arguably not within our mandate. Might be some consideration of just doing a little bit of wordsmithing, going ahead before Silga. I think we can support it just as it is, but maybe there'll be a little bit of wordsmithing demonstrating the local government. I know it's in the second whereas statement, but it might be just strengthened a little bit.
Happy to, if this is passed, if the intent of this resolution is passed, happy to work on the wording with Councillor Palmer.
I think it's
Thank you. I think you can take it down now. Any other comments from council? I think Councillor Orlando, go ahead, and then I'll speak.
Yeah, just for clarity on the discussion there, we are the past couple of resolutions that we've passed, we're moving those forward, but there was discussion recently about revising them before we move them forward. So I'm just seeking clarity on are we setting these in stone, forwarding them on to Silga at this point, or are we revising them before they get to after they get council approval or not, and then sending them on to Silga? I'm a bit unclear.
So, Ms. Floyd, what's the deadline for these to go to Silga?
February 20th.
Okay, so yeah, I'm a little concerned about wordsmithing. I think if you're going to do the wordsmithing, if you have the patience, let's do it now. Councilor Palmer.
Yeah, Mayor Souls, I'm fine with the wording as it is. I think that wouldn't be a good use of our time or staff time to go wordsmithing at this point. Just in response to Councillor Orlando, it's our process for the last several years has been a little organic and not clear, and there has been non-vetted by council wordsmithing that's happened in previous resolutions submitted. I think that's a dialogue maybe after another time as to possibly some policy so that we get some clarity of these questions on getting support moving ahead, just in general. But I would suggest that we not wordsmith right now.
Okay. Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, thank you. And my comment is not really directed at this one in particular. It's more about the process in general, because I don't want to say like council's voted to support this, but then there's some changes and revisions because those are material changes to it. And yeah, I do agree with the comments from council members that we would probably be better with some policy on how we develop these resolutions and bring them forward. I've had some email conversations with staff, and I'm happy to bring forward a resolution at the very end of all these resolutions, just asking that staff bring forward a preliminary report on best practices for just our procedure to get to this point at the end of the discussion.
All right, thank you for that. Any other comments on the motion on the table? Say none, all in favor? Opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Moving on to MRDT governance and eligible uses. Whose motion is this?
That'd be
Councillor Stabenhurst, do you want to put it on the table, please?
I move that the following resolutions, MRDT governance and eligible uses, be submitted to the Southern Interior Local Government for consideration at the 2026 conference.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Lusau. Discussion on the motion. Can you weigh in, Councillor Stabenhurst?
Yes, sir. This resolution is about updating MRDT to reflect today's reality. Tourism creates real pressures for host communities on infrastructure, visitor safety, access, and destination management, but the MRDT framework hasn't kept pace. It limits local governments through outdated approval process and lacks consistent provincial standards for governance and accountability. This resolution is not about proposing a tax increase. It is simply asking the province to conduct a comprehensive review to modernize MRDT governance and to clarify eligible uses so that revenues align with the responsibilities communities are carrying. Thank you.
Thank you. So this will deal with MRDT for 14 communities in the province that collect that. Mr. Parliament, is there more than 14 or just the 14 that we have in our group?
Yeah, 14 is correct.
Okay, thank you for that. And Councillor Lucelle.
Thanks, Mayor Souls. Yeah, I'm very much in support of this. I brought forward a similar resolution 2 years ago, which Tourism Revelstoke asked me to rescind. I think climate has changed and hope that the balance of council can support this motion going forward.
So just to go ahead, Councillor Cherry, then Councillor Palmer.
Appreciate it. I also support this. We've heard from the provincial government that there'll be changes to the MRDT program, potentially expanded province-wide, including an increase with the goal of tourism paying for tourism and not the local taxpayer on the hook for all of the costs associated with the increased amount of traffic.
Thank you. Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I'm not, so the whole premise behind this, I understand that, agree with that. I am concerned about our having a repeat of a rather embarrassing occurrence at UBCM 2 years ago. As Councillor Lucio said, the same topic was brought up. And we did that without consultation of our local partners and without knowledge of the other 14 communities. So that's my question. Have we done those components on this particular resolution? I'm just concerned that communication is absolutely essential, because it's for the other 14 or the other 13 tourism communities, this has a direct impact. And if they're not in a line, which they weren't 2 years ago, then that's a problem. And then equally important is with our local partners having this discussion on the tourism tax. So that'd be my concern. I don't know if there's answers to that.
Well, it definitely is a concern for me. It was other communities that came to me and said, "What in the H are you doing? We would like you to rescind it," because we're working behind the scenes to work with the provincial government and also with our local tourism partners. I think it needs to go have a discussion with them in earnest, and then we have a discussion with our other communities that collect MRDT. So before I would support this going forward, I would think that either I or the councillors, I'll reach out to the other communities, but one of the other councillors wants to reach out locally and get input. I think that would be the best thing. That means that you guys have to work quickly to get it done, but anyway, I think that can be done. That's my comment. Councillor Stephenhurst and Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, and the concern is well noted, and I appreciate the comments from both yourself and Councillor Palmer. What I would like to propose is that if this resolution passes, and I would encourage for all to vote in favor of it, if we have these conversations, and again, it's not in alignment with other parties and best interests, we can always rescind it at that time. But if we don't put it forward at this moment, then we're going to lose that opportunity. And I think right now it's a really, as Councillor Lucio has noted, the times have changed, and I think it's really incumbent on local governments to advocate for the best interests of our communities, which I think this resolution is doing so.
Okay. Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to support it at this time, because I wouldn't want to see that rescinding. I'm not sure that we'll. So going back from 2 years ago, that whole dialogue, and there was a lot of chatter, other councillors from other communities expressing concern from the 14 communities. Yeah. And we have, I believe, not sure who attends, but there's an annual event of the tourism partners across the province. And it seems to me it should be that voice collectively, and that's how it's worked in the past. So missing that step, I think we need to follow up. If it doesn't pass here, I think there's another follow up after this if this isn't supported at this time. But I won't support it without clarity from the other MRDT communities.
Yes, thank you for that. Any other comments from Councilor Cherry?
Yeah, if I can propose a potential possible solution, I'm curious if Councilor Palmer would support this here going to Silga, giving us another 10 days to consult with partners before we have to have it finalized and formalized before we go to Silga. At any point, we can pull it before Silga. But I think at this point, if we don't take the step here, we don't have the option of even getting it in front of the province.
So if we do some work on this, it can come back to council as an email and get a vote that way. Is that correct, Ms. Floyd?
That is up to council how you want to approve resolutions going to SILGA.
All right. Mr. Parliament, I'm going to put you on the spot. When do the CAOs meet?
The upcoming 14 RCC CAO meeting is in Tofino, first week of May.
Okay. All right. So that's after the fact as well. And so we just had a meeting of the RCC mayors, and my computer wasn't working, so I didn't go on and wasn't able to weigh in on this sort of thing. So I'm at this point in time, I'm not going to support this. I think we can still have time to do some consulting before the 20th and come up with something. So any other comments, Councillor Orlando?
Thank you, Mayor Sauls. Just a question, and I don't know if anyone knows, sort of put people on the spot, but is there an option for a UBCM directed resolution at SILGA to bring the resolution on the floor or near the floor? Yeah, there is. Yeah, I believe that. So there is always an option if it is rejected here to bring that forward. It might not be ideal, but it does exist as a pathway, as I understand it.
I think it needs a special vote though.
Yeah, just to be
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Yes, I believe it takes a 2/3 vote to allow the additional to be debated. If it was supported by a large number of communities, it would likely pass without any trouble. Just a possible couple solutions to this. There is also processes going directly to UBCM, not ideal, but if it's a resolution coming from all 14 of the communities, and then just sort of further to the concerns that we have, like you weren't in that particular meeting, maybe they're already talking about it. I don't know if they took minutes because this topic has been coming up, I think with most, if not all, the communities, but each one has a slightly different lens on what it needs to be. I would suggest that we refer this back to yourself if you're the representative and our CAO for vetting through that collaborative, the Resort Community Collaborative.
Good. I'm okay with that. Absolutely. I will reach out to Julie, our secretary, and just see what's been discussed and then reach out to the other mayors. Okay.
I'll formalize it as a
okay.
referral.
Okay. So seconder for that motion? Councillor Cherry. All right. Any further discussion on it being referred? None. All in favor? Oh, Councillor Cherry, go ahead.
I can just make one more comment. The province has signaled to us that this will be potentially a province-wide program in the future, not just the 14 resort municipalities. The way I read this was under that same guise. So I just want to make that comment. I do look for support from the other 14, but we've got a provincial government we're at a pretty big deficit here that's looking for ways to fund it. So this is another way.
Okay, I'll call a question. Councillor Orlando, go ahead.
Just so for clarity, the motion is now to refer it to the meeting of the,
Through the mayor and CAO to the collab, the
Revelstoke Community or the
resort.
what? Resort
use
Community
club.
Collaborative.
Okay, thank you.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. All right, moving on to the next one. I can get my mouse to work here. Adaptive caribou habitat management, equitable winter recreation access along Highway 23 North. Whose motion is this? Councillor Stapenhurst,
Yes, sir.
put it on, please.
Yes, sir. I move that the following resolutions, adaptive caribou habitat management and equitable winter recreation access along Highway 23 North be submitted to the Southern Interior Local Government for consideration at the 2026 conference.
All right, do I have a seconder for that motion, please? Councillor Cherry, discussion on the motion. Councillor Stapenhurst.
Yes, sir. This resolution is not about weakening caribou protection. It's about getting the science and management right. Along 23 North, the province has imposed blanket winter motorized closures under the Wildlife Act. However, provincial telemetry and census data show no confirmed caribou present in the Keystone Basin or Sail Mountain since 2016. At the same time, we see regulated snowmobiling and intensive heli skiing continuing in nearby areas with stable or increasing caribou populations managed through adaptive permit-based systems. That consistency undermines public trust and raises real questions about fairness and effectiveness. This resolution simply asks the province to do three reasonable things. First, to conduct a formal science-based review of closures where caribou are not present. Second, pilot a time-limited permit-based adaptive management approach with immediate closure authority if caribou are detected. And third, apply consistent evidence-based standards across all winter recreation sectors. Thank you.
Okay. Comments from other council.
Just a quick one. I believe there has been some editing done by Silga on this one.
I believe so. Councillor Cherry, again, Ms. Delasal could share on the screen if you'd like to see it.
Install yourself, please.
Can we have that emailed to us?
Yeah, I got you.
Or maybe just the plain copy.
Printed copy of both. Sorry. Mayor Souls, I'll just make a couple.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think across the board, regardless of any individual or groups, understanding or bias of recreational use in the backcountry, that there is definitely merits in these resolutions. Although in this case it is coming from one particular angle, but I think it further to what Councillor Cherry, that's kind of the intent, and I think probably most groups would agree. They might disagree on what it actually means. My concern on the resolution as it is before us, I'm pretty sure this will get rejected by UBCM in its current form because it is local, Highway 23 North specific. It doesn't meet the word count or the whereas statements. And then based on a training session I did on UBCM resolutions by a person on that the resolution committee, this would be rejected at UBCM. So that would be, possibly unfortunate. I won't necessarily be opposed to it because there's definitely some merit, but I'm thinking that it's not in its best form right now. Thank you.
Good. All right. Can you take that down off? And so my concern is that the provincial government is working with forestry to come up with a plan regarding caribou. I'm not sure how far they are along or what they're going to do. That always concerns me as to how they're going to move things forward. But I'm okay with this moving forward. However, you've already stated, Councillor Palmer, that it won't meet the requirements for UBCM. Silga's given this comment where, if I just saw that briefly now, splitting this into a two-part resolution. And then when it goes, and be it further resolved, is that what they consider two parts, Ms. Floyd?
Question.
That is a very good question, Your Worship. I was not very involved in the editing portion of this, so I cannot respond to that.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Councillor Palmer, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to vote against it because it just hasn't been vetted in some sort of a good process. I think that the concerns are legitimate as far as figuring out what we do with the backcountry. This is more recreation based as opposed to forestry based. Two questions that need to be merged together. We have of concern that we have in Revelstoke is backcountry use. That's an outstanding thing that's now getting close to a decade that we just haven't got done. That's the thing that we really need to be pushing, is that backcountry use plan, recreation plan. So at this point, I think it's based on the wording and all these questions. If we try to wordsmith on the fly here, it won't be a good product. Thank you.
Councillor Stapehurst and Councillor Lucio, do you have your hand up? Yep. Councillor Stapehurst, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councillor Palmer for his comments. They're well received. And one of my goals of bringing these resolutions forward, and one of my concerns that I have, is that the province continues to make decisions regarding communities and the impact on communities without any consultation with those communities. And while I understand there was a special resolution passed at UBCM next year, and it almost minimizes our voice, yet we're still not being consulted, and they're still passing these rules and regulations that impact our communities. So that's where the advocacy of these resolutions come from.
Councillor Palmer, then I'll go to Councillor Lucio.
Yeah, just on that, it's going a little bit off topic slightly, but I think it's very relevant on the top-down approach of not consulting communities is a common theme on a whole broad of issues. I think that's maybe something that we could really work on and work with other communities to put a loud voice, not for this year, but for the following year, getting closer to an election year as well, as to instead of shutting out communities and our interests, that's a really crucial thing. And I'd love to work with other councillors in other communities on that in the future. We're seeing letters from other communities on that same thing, Mayor Souls, of not consulting with local government on things that have a big impact on our communities. Thank you, Mayor Souls.
Yeah, consistent. Councillor Lucio.
Can I just quickly follow up? I'm going to take Councillor Palmer up on his offer to work together, and I invite all the other councillors to collaborate on that initiative. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Lucio.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Councillor Palmer that just the intent behind the motion, I understand, but just the layout and the locality of it won't be supported going forward to UBCM. I don't know who else was consulted when it comes to these statistics within here, but I think broader consultation to make sure that the information in here is accurate and a little bit honed in would be beneficial. So I look forward to working with Councillor Stapehurst on this moving forward.
Okay, well, with that, Councillor Terry and then Councillor.
Thanks. I am CC'd on this email that came in at 11:11 today, so a little bit delayed feedback from Silga, but their notes are on the bottom.
Okay.
I think with that in mind.
Not sure I saw that.
Yeah, I think with the note, I'll let you review it, but with that in mind, it might be best to pull this one. And if you rewrite it in a way that it'll be accepted, look at doing it from the floor, check the procedures.
Okay, Councillor Orlando, and then I'll go back to Councillor.
Yeah, thank you, Marisol. I can't support it in the form that it's in right now. There's a lot of statements in here that, although I've spent a lot of time on the caribou issue over the years and have developed an understanding of going on, there's just sort of statements of fact that I'd have to question, like, where does that come from? I'm sure it comes from somewhere, but I don't know where. Like things like freedom of information requests on telemetry data and whatnot, like, I need some background. And I think, again, I hope to speak to a resolution at the end of this list, just sort of formalizing our policy for the next council and how we develop these so that we can anticipate those kinds of things and better sort of get those questions answered before they are on the floor. And I would note that some of these, I'm not sure about this one, were just, I think, added like yesterday or something like that. So there's no time to really follow up and figure out more in time for a decision.
Councillor Staples.
Yeah, given the conversation around the table, I'm willing to rescind this resolution as it stands.
Okay, is the seconder willing to do the same?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, so let's pull it. I'll ask the question. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, good. Moving on to Forest Service road closure, Crown Land access. Councillor Staples, this yours.
Yes, sir. I move that the following resolutions, Forest Service roads and closures and Crown Land access, be submitted to the Southern Interior Local Government for consideration at the 2026 conference.
Seconder for the motion, please. Councillor Lusal. Discussion. Councillor Staples, Phillison.
Yes, sir. This resolution is about access, safety, and common sense. And Revelstoke Forest Service roads are critical for recreation, tourism, and emergency response. When roads or bridges are closed without consultation, it directly limits wildfire access routes, search and rescue response times, and safe public use of Crown land. These closures also shift real cost onto our local government and volunteer SAR teams. UBCM has recognized this issue repeatedly, and this resolution simply asks the province to consult meaningfully with local governments and Indigenous partners before closures and to work collaboratively to maintain a reasonable Crown land access and support community resilience. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else want to discuss it? Councillor Cherry.
Just put in a couple notes here because again, Silka did change a small bit of the wording. We can get that on the screen. It's very small.
Okay. Tell us all.
Maybe 10 words.
Minor stuff.
Yeah. Just so everyone's aware.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, good. You can take it down, Mr. Elso. Thanks. I'm okay with this moving forward. I get a little concerned as chair of RCFC for lots of when we're out in the backcountry, our foresters are out there. There's lots of tourism going on. If some of the roads end up being closed, as we're seeing south of Revelstoke, then it becomes a problem, as Councillor Staples said, for our SAR group. And having people in the backcountry is a great way to be able to watch for forest fires and that sort of thing. So I'm okay with this moving forward. Comment from Councillor Palmer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Yeah, generally supportive of the motion. Again, it's feeling very, very similar to a resolution 2025. It might be the one that's referred to in here, 2025 68. It was an endorsement block. It came under a block. Whether UBCM did their follow-up of a letter to the province on this, that's a question I have. Is this already moving ahead? I don't think there's a lot of harm in this because it's pretty succinct and it's definitely clear. I'm just sort of wondering about those components because that might change where we're going on it. But I'll support it as it is. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Councillor Orlando.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Last UBCM, so when we went down to Victoria in September, I can't recall who was there. I know Council Palmer was there, but I can't recall who else was there. But we met with ministry staff and who indicated to us that they were in the process of doing exactly this. So they are looking at alternative mechanisms for funding or allowing for Forest Service roads to be open, for example, for values separate from forestry, such as recreation, etc. So yeah, I think it's it's a helpful reminder that it would be great to have these alternative options for us, and if and when they indicate how they're going to go forward with that, I think it's important that the city and council make sure that we reach out to our stakeholders if there's any engagement opportunities as the province develops their policy to find something that makes it work. At the end of the day, when a culvert or a bridge or whatever comes out and closes, it's because essentially the funding mechanism for keeping that open via forestry has been removed, and I think at the end of the day they're going to call for some sort of other funding way to keep that open, and also probably and we would need, or I would hope that we would have some sort of active local engagement mechanism so that interested groups could say, hey, we want access to that road and we're willing to support it somehow. So yeah, we're willing to support this. Thanks.
Great. Any other comments from council? So just for the record, I want to make a statement that all of council was at UBCM. Councilor Orlando.
Just that we went to that one meeting, I guess, if that's a reference. I don't recall who was all at that meeting, that specific meeting with the staff members.
All right, good. I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on. Establish a permanent provincial housing policy roundtable. Whose motion is this? Councillor Stapeners, could you put it on, please?
Yes, sir. I move that the following resolutions to establish a permanent provincial housing policy roundtable be submitted to the Southern Ontario local government for consideration at the 2026 conference.
Seconder for the motion, please. So on a second, Councillor Cherry. Fill us in, Councillor Stapeners, please.
Yes, sir. So the BC Real Estate Association has formally called for the establishment of a permanent provincial housing policy roundtable, recognizing the need for a structured ongoing forum to improve how housing policy is developed in BC. The intent is straightforward: to bring together local governments, Indigenous housing organizations, market and non-market housing providers, academic experts, and provincial and federal partners so policies are informed by those delivering housing on the ground. In recent years, the province has introduced significant housing legislation aimed at accelerating supply. While well-intended, many mayors, councils, and housing experts have raised concerns about practical implementation and real-world viability. A permanent roundtable is not about slowing progress, it's about improving outcomes by ensuring housing policy is evidence-based, collaborative, and grounding in delivering realities. Thank you.
Anyone else open for discussion on this, please? Councillor Palmer?
Similar theme that I'm seeing just on what's been before UBCM. I sort of recall a call for a roundtable before. And maybe one of the fundamental differences of Councillor Stapenhurst's motions is it's very clearly stating this active consultation with local governments, because that's been a missing piece. I'm wondering if we've done any research on the UBCM resolutions on this housing policy and whether there's already been follow-up. Again, we could, go through this, but if that's already happening, it may need to get pulled.
Any comment from Councillor Stapeners? Do you know any of those things with what UBCM is proposing at this point?
I believe that this resolution was at UBCM, that it was supported. There are currently over a half a dozen municipalities across the province, including nonprofit organizations and housing organizations such as the Aboriginal Housing Management Association, BC Nonprofit Housing Association, Canadian Mortgage Brokers Association. All of these have endorsed this. To be honest with council, had I been more proactive, I would have brought this as a notice of motion to council prior to this going to SILGA so that we can endorse it as a council. And I plan on doing so in the near future. I think that this advocacy piece really it's really critical. I don't believe the current housing policies that we have are being implemented in the best way. And I think that having this roundtable at the provincial level would really benefit all the communities across the province.
Great. Thank you, Councillor Cherry.
Yeah, just as a quick history lesson for everybody who forgets, this was actually at UBCM last year. It did not make it to the floor. We ran out of time. So it is able to be brought back, like Councillor Stabenhurst is trying to do, because it didn't get the chance to make it.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Just looking at what Ms. Delassalle put up, it had an NR rating, which is not recommended. So for some reason, it might not have made the floor and not made their parameters, being that this is a little different. And I'm supportive of this moving forward to see where we go. So any other comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay, we got through them all. We have. All right. So we're going on to engineering, license of occupancy, the water reservoir at RMR. Mr. Black, do you have a brief overview?
Mayor Souls, I think Councillor Orlando's trying to get your attention.
Okay, Councillor Orlando, sorry.
Yeah, Your Worship.
Oh, yeah, you wanted to make a motion. My apologies. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much. And in the spirit of last minute resolutions, I'm bringing forward a last minute resolution. It was actually just clarification correspondence with staff, and they actually suggested maybe it would be a good idea. I'll put the resolution forward. I haven't talked with anyone. I was literally writing it as we are sitting here. So I'm going to be asking for a seconder, and the resolution is that staff provide a report to an appropriate committee within 6 months on policy best practices for council development of formal resolutions for SILGA and or UBCM resolutions.
Somebody want to second that for us, please?
I'll
Councillor
second.
Palmer? Yep.
Second for discussion.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So basically, over our 4 years of resolution development, we've had sort of the recurring issues. I reached out to the staff last week to ask about what our current policy is. And although we had talked about putting one forward, we didn't. So we run into, among other things, I think the challenges today of having things just, really no time to digest what's in front of us and think about it and reach out and consult with people. So I think we would do better to have some sort of a policy guideline on how we bring them forward. I'm not suggesting what that would be, but just that staff look around for what are best practices to make it work to bring it together. And this is last three key points. Number one, it was suggested by staff that it would be helpful to them. So that's number one. Number two, as council knows, Mayor and Council know, this year or in 2025, UBCM changed their resolution process in order to narrow them down and filter out ones that are more locally to the local area association. So in light of that brought up questions for me as we looked at these resolutions. So it would be good to have that in there. And finally, we have talked about this before a few times, but have not brought it up. And I would just encourage council, this will be for the next term, but to think about developing a formal policy to smooth over this process and help us bring forward resolutions that hopefully have more broader support or don't lose support just because people feel like they don't have enough information because they're just sort of finding out about things. So I encourage you to support staff bringing forward a report.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Councillor Palmer?
Yeah, I'm concurring in general with the principle behind it. I'm almost wondering before sort of that particular motion with that particular timeline, with the absence of discussion, if maybe this just be referred either to the committee of the whole or the governance committee that refer the motion directly to, for that, so that we have some time to, because I think it needs to be tightened up a little bit. But I agree with the principle behind it.
So Councilor Orlando, would you have a preference? If it goes to the governance committee, we could have you join the governance committee as a guest and weigh in and tighten it up, or we could go directly to committee of the whole and work on it there as a group.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think either way, as read, it was that staff provided a report to an appropriate committee. I'm sort of leaving that up to the discretion of staff on what they feel the best way of doing that. It's probably going to be committee of the whole, governance committee. Within 6 months, that allows us to at least get it on the table in this term. And all we're asking for is policy best practices. I think what would be good is if staff are able to provide sort of an overview of what's happening in the province and allow the committee to have some basis upon which to consider options for them. So it's not a big comprehensive report in my mind, just sort of a preliminary report, reaching out to other communities, seeing what they're doing, and just hopefully the goal is to, at the end of the day, strengthen the lobby effort by better coordinating and providing clarity. Certainly, there's no intent to restrict or change or anyone's ability to bring things forward. We just do it a little bit better.
So at this point in time, Councilor Palmer, you had suggested go to a committee. Councilor Orlando suggested go to a committee. So I'll just call the question and then we can decide in conversation with staff where it's best placed. Is that okay with you? All right. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Okay. Now I will go back. Mr. Black, thank you for your patience. If you could just give us some brief overview, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This report is asking for council action to exchange a license of occupation from RMR to the city for the purpose of maintaining, thank you, new water infrastructure that RMR built as part of their additional development at the south end of town. This infrastructure will become part of the city as soon as it's deemed accepted, which has not quite happened yet. But it's time to get onto it so that we can access these pipes and make sure that we can maintain them in the future. There was a graphic that was sent out later today that Councillor Palmer requested. I hope all of council has seen it. If Mr. De La Salle, if you could put that up just for council and the public. There is the alignment of the pipes to the new reservoir on the hill. And any questions?
Mr. Black, when do we anticipate it to be up and running, full of water and ready to go?
The system is up and running right now. We still have some minor deficiencies that we're working with the developer and their contractor to sort through. We will not move forward with this license of occupation change until the city deems it accepted. At that time, the city would then enter into a maintenance period with RMR so that if anything comes up that is substandard, that will get fixed during this maintenance period. And currently there is water in the pipes and in the reservoir, so it is in service.
Wonderful. Thank you for that clarification. Council, any questions of Mr.
You're mute, I think. Mayor Souls.
Yes.
How's that?
Yeah.
You hear me? Councilor Palmer, go ahead. I just said, Mr. Black, thanks for the clarification.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the report. And I'm just wondering, just want to make sure that plan is on the agenda. I don't think we need to formalize that, but
We can
That's added.
okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for the report. Just a couple of questions. So is that parcel, is the license of occupation just the parcel? Is it the access going up? That's my first question. Second question through the chair is that within the city boundary? And then my third question, just to get them all there, would it be better to actually have that property under ownership rather than license of occupation, that it's actually transferred to the city for fees? Well, however that works for the city.
Number one, access to the site is on Mountain Road, which is publicly accessible and
Within the municipal boundary?
it is within the municipal boundary. And Ms. De La Salle, if you could put that graphic up one more time, please.
Yeah.
The actual city boundary is shown here in the light yellow, or I guess that's yellow. City boundary is shown here. And so the reservoir and the pipe is all within the city, right? Municipal boundary. The question of whether this should be dedicated as fee simple to the city, not aware of a process that would fall under. The license of occupation right now is from the Crown to RMR as part of their development rights. And so we're simply taking that and transferring just this alignment to the city under the same license, which will act much like a statutory right of way for the future. So the dedication of land as fee simple is not required. However, if council would like us to do some more research, we certainly can follow up.
Councilor Palmer.
Thank you. So that's good. I'll support the motion as, or I'll put the motion, actually, I'll put the motion on the table as written.
Okay, seconder for the motion, please. Councilor Lucille.
And then I'll just speak to it briefly.
ahead.
I would like us to explore I'm not sure if it's fee simple is the right title, but actually getting that title within the city. And it's because of some other disputes that have happened in the past. I think it would be in the city's interest, if reasonable, to have that clear ownership with the municipality. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from council on the motion on the table? Councilor Cherry.
Have that motion read back to me? Yeah, I was just having fun.
That
I appreciate it.
As in the package. All right. And then Mr. Black, I think my mother-in-law would call that color ecru. I have no idea where that came from, but anyway, that's fine. All right, I'm going to call the question.
I know that term.
Yeah, I know. It's not an American term. Whoa, I can tell you that. All right, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Black. Appreciate that. All right, moving on to item D, development variance permit, 1219 Victoria Road. Looks like we've got 2 variance permits for this one. Mr. Simon, do you have a brief overview?
Through your worship, if council wishes, I can give a very high level overview of the proposal.
Yes, please.
So the city has received a development permit and development variance permit for the construction of a 24-unit apartment building. The building is proposed to be 3 stories in height with an elevator penthouse located on the top of the building. It will have underground parking as well as some surface parking. The underground parking will be predominantly located below grade, but is projecting up a little bit, hence the height variance. The site will also include bicycle parking and storage, including permanent bicycle storage located within the parkade, as well as predominantly perimeter and adjacent to Victoria landscaping. Some variances are required with respect to building height, lot coverage, as well as impermeable surface coverage, as well as some minor variances for projections into the minimum side yard and front yard setback requirement. The owner is proposing 27 on-site parking spaces, and this leaves them deficient 6 parking spaces that they are proposing as a cash in lieu payment. The way that this is presently structured for council's consideration is to take a cash in lieu payment as a security. The owner is exploring the option of purchasing the property immediately adjacent to the site to accommodate the required parking. So what staff have structured this as is a security for the cash in lieu to meet the requirements of the zoning bylaw, and that would be required to be deposited with the city before we issue any subsequent building permit. And if by the time final occupancy is requested by the proponent, they have not provided the required on-site parking, then the city would cash that security to ensure that no occupancy of the building commences until such time that the parking provisions of the zoning bylaw have been met. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions from council? So basically, from what I'm seeing, I'll get to you in a moment, Councillor Palmer. What I'm seeing is we've only had one resident with concern about shading. Other than that, there's been no other input from community members. Is that correct, Mr. Simon?
Through your worship, as far as I'm aware, that is correct, and I can look over to our corporate officer to see if she has received anything additional beyond the one letter.
We have not. No.
Okay, Councillor Palmer.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I have a couple questions, but I could put the motion on the table and then ask the questions.
Sure. Yep.
I'll second that.
So that
I don't know. When I don't have Councillor Devlin in the room, you guys are really shy to speak, but so this is for number one, correct?
Yeah, I could actually put the and that captured all at once. No?
No, it's separate.
Just one, sorry, just
Yep.
one.
Okay, discussion, go ahead.
Just a couple of questions through to the planner. And a couple of comments. So it's a theme we've had before on the parking stuff, that whole parking issue. I have some hesitation on that sort of conditional thing. I'd almost like to make it a condition that they secure the parking rather than the cash in lieu. And that's maybe, but we still have that mechanism near Souls. I'm wondering if we really need to, until we figure out the parking thing, really seriously reconsider whether we even allow cash in lieu. I'm inclined, but that's a topic for another day. This is just another one that gets through this. So no comment needed beyond that, I don't think. The other variances which are being characterized as minor, and individually they are minor. Once they're collectively, does it start to get out of the minor? And then the question about if this is our intent in that area, in that kind of zone, why not have the zoning reflective of that? So that maybe the planner could just answer that question.
Mr. Simon.
Through your worship to Councillor Palmer, certainly the MU3 zone, which is what this is, the scenic corridor mixed use zoning. We did just update the zoning bylaw, and this application has been kind of caught in the middle. Council may look at it as something that is similar. It kind of came in under the old zoning bylaw, and then now is being caught up under the new zoning bylaw.
Right.
Most certainly the density and height allowances, specifically the height allowances within our mixed use zones, we were conservative with them,
yeah,
I would say. And the new zoning bylaw was always intended to get us up to a baseline that we can then pragmatically continually move forward and do tweaks and changes. Staff were very cognizant when we crafted that bylaw not to go too far too fast. This community has experienced a lot of change, and so I know council is not keen on seeing so many variances still come forward. They still will come forward, and I would also characterize this site as a little bit tighter to accommodate an apartment building than what we would generally see. This is about as small as it's going to get to see an apartment building of this caliber. And one of the key things here with the proposed building height as well as the lot coverage really comes down to the fact that they're putting underground parking on site. The underground parking is what really kind of pushes that building envelope a little bit higher. So certainly I do think that staff, and we are exploring through a separate project right now, some of the height and density allowances within our mixed use and our medium and high density zones of the bylaw, that you might see recommendations in the next 6 months coming forward to slightly increase those. And also one of the items I would add in there, as we're seeing changes in BC building code requirements and increases in insulation requirements, you're going to start to see the stories get a little bit taller within these mixed use as well as apartment style buildings. So certainly something we need to keep on top of, and staff will be continually reevaluating. But we did want to kind of start low and go slow and then make some methodical changes into the future.
And
Follow
then,
up, Councillor.
yes, thank you, Mayor Souls. On the height, well, just a general comment on this building on Victoria. This is an area in transition anticipated in the OCP with the zoning bylaw changes. So the negative consequences to some properties, that's kind of inevitable through the evolution. We're seeing that throughout the city, whether it's, even allowing 4 dwelling units on single starts to affect neighbors. And so that transition can be difficult for some. In general, on the height, in Victoria, I don't have a problem. I'd actually prefer more height, less lot coverage, so you have better view corridors. And so I would be more supportive of this, actually, if it was even, another story and preserving view corridors within the area. I think that's probably enough. All that people want to hear from me right now. Thank you, Mayor Souls.
Okay. Councillor Cherry, is that your hand?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this. I do have a quick question. Is this the first building we've seen with underground parking developed in town? Through the chair to...
Through your worship, to Councillor Cherry, no, we've seen underground parking proposed at Mackenzie Village.
Oh, sorry.
And
Sorry. Without being a CD zone.
Through your worship, yes, this should be, as far as I'm aware, it would be our first one outside of the CD zone in my tenure with the city. Rather.
Okay, well, that's even more reason for me to support it. I do have another question. In light of all of these asks in the DVP, how many of these are going to be still in effect if they were to get their purchase of the adjacent property?
Through your worship, Councillor Cherry, there would be some of the side yard setback projections that would no longer be required. And again, those are relatively minor. It's looking at the narrowness of the lot, and they're trying to get a unit on either side of each hallway. And when you start looking at minimum requirements under BC Building Code, the units have to be a certain amount wide. The lot coverage and impermeable surface coverage likely would not be required. I would have to double check the calculations, but my gut looking at it says that they would not be required.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, any other comments on the motion on the table? Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, thanks so much. Just a little bit of clarity on one part of it I think is novel or unusual, at least, is it proposes cash in lieu if they are unable to secure a property next door, which is a city-owned property. How much is the cash in lieu payment, I guess, is the first part of that. And secondly, just a sort of a general comment on this approach sort of going forward without the certainty of that property consolidation. It sort of seems like it would be the normal course would be just like secure the property and then go forward with the development in this case. So I'm just trying to understand the rationale for this approach.
Mr. Simon, please.
Through your worship, Councillor Orlando, it's approximately $21,500 per parking space. So you're getting into that $128,000 territory for the cash in lieu payment. And with respect to the way staff have structured these resolutions, it's an effort to try and allow this project, as they are ready to submit a building permit, to proceed this year. And again, this is a product that we do not get a lot of on the market side within Revelstoke. It's one that they've been working towards for a while, and it's taken some time due to negotiations and discussions with CMHC to try and get alternative financing, which they were not successful in. And so staff have tried to work with them to find an avenue to not delay the project, but also make sure that building permits aren't issued and occupancy isn't granted unless the terms of the zoning bylaw are met. And one thing to keep in mind, this idea of cash in lieu, it is an ability within the zoning bylaw, so it is up to a proponent if they want to provide parking on site or provide cash in lieu. So it's not really a bargaining chip of the city. It's a way that you can comply with the minimum parking requirements established in the zoning bylaw. And certainly worth a conversation with council is, potentially, motion arising or something like that. If council wants to reevaluate whether that's an option that we want to go forward with. But from staff's perspective, the way the resolutions are structured, not only does it allow the project to move forward to address our immediate housing needs that we have within this community that council's acutely aware of, it still ensures that no occupancy permit is granted unless compliance with the zoning bylaw is demonstrated.
Okay, follow up, Councillor.
Yeah, I guess a follow-up would be a question through the chair to staff. What about proceeding with just a cash in lieu payment instead of this conditional approach of if they purchase it? Because our policy, which is sort of under revision, does refer to competitive processes, I think, in disposition of the property. So it seems like it's not something that, is the sole right of the adjacent owner to get it in the future. And it puts council in a bit of a spot, where people are like, oh, what about the parking spots? How is it going to make this whole thing work? It's, it's hard to move forward. I guess what I'm, thinking out loud is my preference would be for a cash in lieu payment, or, now, minus those 6 parking spaces, because, I just think we can't really say there's certainty in the purchase of adjacent property, and it also sort of, puts council in a position as they consider these dispositions to, face pressure to, sell it to one person in a sense that, to make the parking work or whatever.
Through your worship, Councillor Orlando, certainly fair. Council could amend proposed resolution number 4 to require the cash in lieu payment before issuance of a building permit, which would be our standard procedure. The one item with that council should be aware of is that could unduly put pressure on the city to expedite the application to review disposition of that property, as well as it could mean that the project may not move forward in terms of actual construction season this year. And the proponent may end up just saying, okay, we'll do the cash in lieu payment and we won't explore purchasing that property adjacent to the lot, which as of right now, that lot doesn't have a whole lot of utility for the city. But that said, it's certainly council's prerogative and staff that would be very easy wording changes right now to require it just before issuance of a building permit following standard procedure. So council and the community has certainty as to whether it'll be a cash in lieu payment or it'll be actually providing parking on site, and then the owner can choose how they want to proceed. If they want to hold off on applying for a building permit, go through the land disposition process, or if they want to provide the cash in lieu.
All right, thank you, Councillor Palmer. And then I want to get back to the motion on the table.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. I just on the report, I can't remember, did this go through APC?
Through your worship, Councillor Palmer, if I may, through your worship.
Yes, please go ahead, Mr. Simon.
So this would have gone to Advisory Planning Commission back 4 years ago. Yeah. On December 14th, 2021. Right. So they had their variance and development permit issued, and then again through those conversations for trying to secure financing, the project didn't go ahead. Right. And so the permits ultimately lapsed. Right. So staff, following the terms of the new APC bylaw, did not bring it forward. Council could direct it back to them. I would note the changes that have been made to the proposal since 2021 to now are quite minor, and from staff's perspective, were an improvement and more reflective of our development permit area guidelines, but certainly an option for council if they do want to refer it to advisory planning.
And then Chair, a couple of minor things. So the one EV's charging station seems too low. I kind of forgot that thing. It's sort of minor detail, but I'm not sure if that's just for the visitor, but where we're going, and certainly strong signals from the federal government on EV, so it feels low. I'll just leave that comment right now because it's relatively minor. And through the mayor, just generally, this area has been gone through many renditions of proposals for the last couple decades. Actually, there's a long history. On the city, Mayor, through the chair, on the city-owned property, I'm just sort of thinking, okay, well, we want to make sure that we don't miss opportunities. And I'm almost wondering if we're considering the sale of that property, whether it should be consideration of a multi-use path or something, some process going through there to get that very unpleasant pedestrian experience on Victoria to provide an outlet. It might actually be complementary to their development as well. So I'm just going to leave that thought, and that's all I have for now, Mayor Souls. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Cherry.
Thanks. I do have one thing that just came to mind. I was actually on the APC back then before being on council. The APC actually suggested that the applicant apply for this right away in order to accommodate more parking and more housing.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, Councillor Orlando, did you raise your hand? Go ahead, please.
Yeah, and sorry to do this, and thank you through the chair. Sorry to do this on the fly, but you know, my feeling is that it just seems unusual to be at this stage with sort of a conditional on purchase, yes or no. And I realize, you know, staff is trying to make things work and trying to move stuff forward, but you know, as we've heard, it's been around for a while, and I think perhaps you know, the opportunity has been there to apply for the property and put the 6 parking spots on. So my question of staff is, if we were to reword this to not put the condition that they own, that they get the property, that it's just cash in lieu for 6 spots, could it be essentially reversed in the way so that if they do acquire it, they could have the option to you know, get that back? I sort of see it as almost like the, you know, inversion of the same thing, because I think, you know, prior to that consideration or process, it's, you know, it's sort of committing-ish to something that, you know, it's not being considered in.
Okay. Comment, Mr. Simon, before we move on.
Through your worship, Councillor Orlando, certainly council could restructure the resolution just to require a cash in lieu payment before issuance of a building permit, and then the owner could decide if they want to move forward with purchasing the other land. It would, you know, raise the question as to whether or not it triggers an amendment. I think it would be pretty minor to the permit, so it likely wouldn't trigger an amendment to the development permit. But again, it might create some additional uncertainty for the proponent as to whether or not they would move forward with this year's construction season.
Okay. All right. Any other comments from council? Councillor Stapenhurst?
Yeah, I'm having issues with some of the councillors' comments regarding the cash in lieu and the parking and the proposal and how to move forward. And what I fear is that, you know, ultimately putting more roadblocks in the path of development in an already challenging market. And if we are in the midst of a housing crisis, is that necessarily the path forward that we want to go? So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to actually make a comment now. I think everyone's had a chance to talk if they want. I'm supportive of this moving forward. I would like to see this get built, and I don't want to be the one that's holding it up. It's come to us a while ago, and let's move forward and actually get some housing built. So, Councillor Orlando, one last comment on this motion, please.
Yeah, through the chair, just seeking an opportunity to respond. What I am trying to work through in my questions of staff is an alternate way that we could do this right here, right now, to move things forward. I'm not seeking to delay or hold things up. Simply to not have this condition of maybe or maybe not acquiring the adjacent property. So one way of doing that is just requiring a cash in lieu payment for 6 spots and remove the section that is conditional on acquiring the adjacent property. The proponent could still move forward and opt to put parking on there. I don't know if that would be likely. And the benefit of doing, moving something forward that way, would, leave a property available, or we could discuss things like, rights of way or access or other things that people are talking about. It just, I don't know that moving forward with the condition of we selling to one person is necessarily the right way to go forward. So my question would be for staff is just, strike the sections that requires or that ask them to look at the adjacent property and just say, hey, cash in lieu for 6 parking spaces and move it through right now.
Sorry, if I could just end this. I just want to caution the council that only number 1's on the table.
That's correct. I was just going to say that we're dealing with number 1. That's in number 4. I'd like to start moving this forward. Councilor Orlando, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to call a question on number 1. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Number 2.
I move that development permit be issued for the construction of a 24-unit, multi-unit dwelling at 1219 Victoria Road.
Okay.
33, Section 34, Township 23, Ranch Dune of the West 6th Meridian, Kootenai District Plan. Oh, it's in brackets. Shoot.
You have that in there.
Councilor Lucio, are you seconding that?
Yes, I am.
All right. Discussion on this motion. Councilor Palmer.
Yeah, it's really minor, but there is a missing parenthesis in the motion. Minor. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that. Any other conversation? Seeing none. All those in favor? Number 2. Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Number 3.
I move that the owner provide a security for the due and proper completion of landscaping in the amount of 125% of the amount identified in the cost estimate to the city of Revelstoke in the form of cash or unconditional, irrevocable, auto-renewing letter of credit issued by a Canadian chartered bank or credit union prior to the issuance of a building permit.
Seconder, please. Councilor Palmer. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Number 4. So there seems to be some concern about cash in lieu. Does somebody want to amend this and see if there's a seconder, or are you okay putting this on? Councilor Palmer.
I'll put the motion on the table as written.
Okay, seconder for that motion. Councilor Cherry, further discussion on that motion.
I'll just speak to it. I believe understand Councilor Orlando, but it just seems one or the other. And I think we're actually trying, with the limits that we have because of the entitlement of the developer to do the parking in lieu. And I wish we didn't have that at this moment, but he has that entitlement. So I which way this goes, I think they're kind of equal. And so I'm going to go with the staff recommendation at this point. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from council? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Note Councilor Orlando's opposed. Balance of council's in favor. This motion passes. All right, moving on to item E, DVP 2021-014, variance permit at 1118 Douglas Street. Do you have a brief overview, Mr. Simon, on this, please?
Through your worship, to all of council, this is a variance that was previously considered by council in February 2022. Since that time, staff have been working with the proponent to meet preconditions to issuance. There's been extensive correspondence back and forth on this proposal, and we are at a point where staff are seeking council direction if they want this to continue moving forward, as we are in a bit of a gray area as far as the development approval procedures bylaw is concerned, given the current status of this application. I don't, unless council wants me to, go through the individual correspondence. I think the background gives a good summary. If council has any questions, happy to answer. If council wants me to unpack more, I'm happy to unpack more as well.
Council, so do we have the proponent in the room?
Yes.
Okay, so council, most of you, if not all of you, have received an email. Most of you would have seen the property back in 2022 and weighed in on the easement and the geotech and things that were requested. So I'm going to give the proponent the opportunity to speak if council would like that. But I also have a couple questions from Mr. Simon just regarding that. So going back to 2022, council had deemed that the easement would not go forward until, would not be placed on the property until completion of the building. And the reasoning for that was we wanted to make sure that the building was complete. We're now 4 years down the road. Why have we not seen anything come forward to council? And I want staff's perspective before I go to the proponent. Do you have any information that you want to impart, Mr. Simon?
To your worship, so there's a few pieces that I think are important for council consideration here.
Okay.
There was 2 requirements of the variance before it would be issued. That was submission and registration of an access easement agreement over a piece of city property that was required to provide access to the lot, as well as a geotechnical report. Generally speaking, a proponent has 1 year to meet preconditions to issuance, or else a permit becomes null and void as per our procedures bylaw. So February 2022 was when this was ultimately given approval by council. As of June 2023, the preconditions were not met. Staff had followed up. We had followed up again in September, indicating we were about 18 months out. The proponent indicated they were working with them. Staff had kept working with the proponent and maintained the open status of the file, which is, in my opinion, an error on staff's part. We should have just followed our procedures bylaw, allowed the proponent to come forward if they disagreed with closing the file and appeal it to council at that time. Because we continued to work with them, they followed up by the end of the year, indicating that they would be providing the requirements of the preconditions to issuance. So that was at the end of 2023. As of February 2024, they had provided the draft easement agreement as well as the geotech report. Both were preliminarily signed off by the city. However, we did not register the easement agreement. We indicated a path forward, the proponent saying we would issue the variance and register the easement agreement upon submission of a building permit. The intention was to make sure that that city parcel was not overly encumbered, as we didn't know the specific access configuration. And given that there are utility constraints on that lot, we didn't want to overly encumber it before we had the building permit showing access. Again, I will acknowledge that was an error on staff's part. We should have issued the permit, and then we would have been 2 years out as of this February, which means the permit would have been null and void, because legislatively you have 2 years to substantially commence construction under an issued variance or development permit, and to date, there has been no construction on the site. So those are the things that I would like council to be aware of. Since February 2024, we've had various correspondence with the proponent indicating that they would be submitting a building permit. First it was May 1st, 2025, then it was November 30th, 2025. And this is where staff got into working into a gray area. We were beyond the confines of the procedures bylaw at that time. Again, already explained why we were beyond it, trying to work with the proponent. And so we were starting to get into deadlines that staff had ultimately set for a building permit to come in. And the proponent had indicated to us that if we would have waited until the end of December, a building permit application would have been submitted. To date, no building permit application has been received. Hence staff's recommendation to close the file as per council direction. But again, under the procedures bylaw, there is an option for the proponent to appeal to council to request an extension. Staff, after giving 2 extensions, acknowledge that we can't grant any more extensions. So if they wanted to go forward, it would have to go to council, and here we are today. It's a bit of a complicated history. I apologize for that.
No,
If I could,
no.
Worship, I just want to clarify something. When this first came to council, it wasn't this council, it was just you and Palmer that were
Okay.
there.
Okay.
We were elected afterwards, though I'm sure all of us are quite familiar with the project.
All right. Thanks for that confirmation. Yeah, I'm getting mixed up on the dates February and the election was October. Okay. So would council, if the proponent is willing to speak, is council open to hearing? Just raise your hand if you are.
At your pleasure. Here's
All right. So Mr. Slip, you're in the room. I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium, move the podium so I can see you because I want to look into your eyes as you're telling me why we haven't received a building permit. Great. That's perfect, Stephen. Thank you. I'm the guy in the headset and the glasses, the only one on the screen. Fill me in, please.
So I was weeks away from submitting a building permit. Since September, I'd indicated that I was going to be submitting it at the end of the calendar year. But then ultimately the city staff decided to cancel that on December 1st. So we're still only weeks away from submitting it if these delays don't cause any more issues.
So my question is, why did you not submit something before the end of December in any event?
So development's challenging and there's been a lot of hurdles to overcome. We've had changes to the building code, changes to bylaws, all things that have had to cause redesigns. And
Right.
so it's not like I've been sitting on my hands for the last couple of years. We've been actively trying to move this project forward. I've gotten many iterations, but ultimately now I have a design that works. I don't know any issues that are going to stand in the way. It's something I can afford to do right now. So if we can go forward, we can build it.
Okay. Any questions from council? Seeing none, I'm going to go back to Mr. Simon. When this was originally brought to the city, there was some financial payments made to move this process through. Is that correct?
To your worship, I'm not aware of any.
Okay,
To your worship, there was an application fee that was paid for a development variance permit.
Okay, that's what I was getting at. I knew there was something. So at this point, if this is canceled by council as we have in our package, what are the financial ramifications to the staff and then to the proponent? Is there another fee, and what's the ramifications to you? Are we as staff working for free to try and help this proponent get stuff done?
To your worship, we are well past any semblance of cost recovery on this particular application for the staff time from Mr. Black and myself on it over the last 4 years now. So we're not going to get cost recovery on this application. If the application is canceled, then the proponent would need to pay another $1,900 fee if they still require a variance. And one thing I would note too, staff haven't seen any other renditions of different proposals, but if the proposal is different than the variance that council granted, a subsequent variance would still be required if there is a change from what was ultimately approved by council. So it would be canceled. Canceling the permit doesn't take a lot of staff time. It would then be reviewed by one of our planning technicians or our planner ones if there is a resubmission of a development variance permit, and staff would be recommending to the proponent to apply for that variance with their building permit application. And as per the package from staff, we'd be recommending, which honestly should have been recommended in our original report back in 2022, that the easement be required as a condition of building permit issuance to ensure that this project does go forward, given that it is a intensely constrained lot from a geotech perspective.
Okay, so the geotech's been complete and you're satisfied, Mr. Simon and Mr. Black, on the ability of something to be built on that lot in a safe way. Is that correct?
Through your worship, yes, a preliminary geotechnical investigation was signed off by the engineering department. Prior to issuance of a building permit, the proponent will still require a development permit where that geotech will likely need to be expanded, and they'll also need a building permit that will need sign off on a Schedule B from a geotechnical engineer.
Okay, all right. And then, so Mr. Slip, your drawings that you have now, will they need an additional variance permit?
I don't believe so.
Okay, but nothing's been put forward to staff for preliminary conversation, is that correct?
No, I've stayed within the confines of the original DVP, and they haven't flagged anything in anything I've submitted.
Okay, all right, appreciate that comment. Council, Councilor Cherry, you have a question?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions for Mr. Simon. Through the chair, Mr. Simon, how many hours have you and Director Black spent on this project over the last 4-ish years, if you were to estimate?
Through your worship to Councillor Cherry, it's very challenging to estimate over the last 4 years. Staff we're dealing with dozens upon dozens of different permit applications in a given week, especially between Mr. Gyps, myself, and Mr. Black. There's so much development going on in the city. We are into the dozens of hours total, or over a dozen hours. It's very challenging to give an accurate estimate on it.
Okay, and the cost, I mean, the development service department is a cost per service department. Just at those numbers alone, we've blown way past the development the DVP permit costs, to the point where the taxpayers are currently already subsidizing this project just in staff time. Would that be a reasonable argument to make?
Mayor Scholes,
Yep, go ahead.
if I may, we're kind of going off.
We're going off track. I understand. Thank you for your comment, Councillor. So I do have a question, Mr. Slip, and I don't want to put you on the hot seat, and I appreciate the fact that you came in person to this council. That speaks to the veracity of you trying to get your project done. If I said to you, how soon can you get a building permit to our staff? What would your answer be?
I really, I could have had it by December 31st. I now need to rehire people, and I'm not sure how busy those professionals are. So there's probably only about 4 weeks of work left, but then there's an undetermined amount of time to get back to the top of their work piles. So I would say if I was giving myself like leeway, like 3 months. But
so Mayor Scholes,
and if I can
go ahead, Councillor Palmer. Just let me finish with the proponent here for a moment. Did you have something else you wanted to add, Mr. Slip?
Yeah, I guess with regards to Councillor Chair's question about, I guess, the time spent on this, I've been very, I guess about 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, the planning department kind of mentioned that they didn't want to spend time on this. This is a small project relative to like the previous thing we just talked about, which is an apartment building. So I haven't really bothered the planning department at all in the last couple of years on this. So I could understand why the planning department would feel that progress on this hasn't been made, because there hasn't been kind of a two-way conversation about all the things that are happening in the background. But I really have tried to minimize any involvement from either the planning or engineering staff. With the two things that were required for me to do in order to get the easement, the geotechnical engineering was completed immediately. And I have repeatedly, I had lawyers draft the easement agreement, surveyors completed the easement alignment, and the only thing I've really tried to reach out to them to is get feedback on that. So I've submitted both of those. The last time you and I had spoken on this, you had concerns about it being too wide, and we had the design team make it as narrow as possible.
Right.
And so, but ultimately, I haven't really received much feedback from staff on that last part, and so I'm not sure if time has been spent on it or not, but I haven't received anything.
Okay, good. Any questions for Mr. Slip from council? Seeing none, thank you, Stephen. You can go have a seat and move. Yeah, thank you. I can see my council. So council, there is a motion in the package to close and to rescind. You've heard from Mr. Slip, you've heard from Mr. Simon. There will need to be an application move forward for building permit and whatnot, because our planning staff have followed the regulations, our regulations. So any comments from council at this point? Somebody want to put the motion on the table that's in the package or change it?
Mayor Scholes, yeah, I'll put the motion on the table as written.
Okay.
There's a second, I'll make a couple comments.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Cherry. Okay, Councillor Palmer.
Whoa. We're way too far in the weeds, Mayor Scholes, on this. I really would like to, if others council members are not supportive of the staff recommendation, I would like to hear what they're at this point. We've heard the two parties. We got way too far down into the weeds here. We have a recommendation. We've heard from the proponent multiple times now, including in this meeting. We just need to make a decision. But if this isn't the way council wants to go, what is the other option? Thank you.
Good. Well, you've stated your thing. I did deliberately go off track a bit because I wanted to hear from the proponent. I am supportive of our staff's recommendations. I want to see Mr. Slip build his project, but I also am cognizant of the fact that we have rules and regulations that our entire building community have to adhere to. So I am going to support the motion on the table because we need to set an example for our other builders in the community. And also, I know that our staff have gone out of their way. Mr. Simon has kept me apprised of some of the conversations over the years, and I'm aware that they've done what they could to go forward. So, any other comments from council? Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Sauls. Just sort of a general comment. I appreciate the proponent coming forward and providing comment. I know that staff don't move to rescind something without careful consideration and readings. This is not something that they enjoy doing, and given the timeline and what's before us, I would back up the mayor in saying we have to support staff in these decisions because they are effectively following the rules that have been set, that the existing rules, and part of that is unfortunately at this stage, and it is available to bring forward again with some sort of application. Unfortunately, that might have additional costs such as the application fee, but that's just sort of the result of this delay.
All right. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? No. Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Mr. Slip, and thank you, Mr. Simon. Moving on to communications, governance committee minutes, basically everything in those minutes we put into play already. So unless someone else has something that they want to discuss, I think we can move on. Seeing none, Economic Development, Councillor Orlando, the January 14th minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Some of the items in the minutes have actually been before council, such as the application for the BC Air Access Program that we are moving forward with. We had a broad discussion of the latest iteration of the tech strategy, reviewing feedback and surveys that we did, and staff are continuing to work ahead on that. And I would say, yeah, those are the two main things on the agenda from January.
Okay, any comments from council? Seeing none, I will move on to Youth Advisory Committee, January 19th minutes. Councillor Lucel.
Thanks, Mayor Sauls. We had a report from Samantha Green, the new youth liaison. She talked about what she's doing in the high schools, as well as the newly formed youth advisory committee within the high school. They're working on a logo competition and fundraising activities. And then Ms. Donato also informed us of the steering committee meeting, which was looking into addressing the threshold for low-income families to be able to access the Youth Access Fund and using the new living wage calculation that has come forward for our community.
Great. Any comments from council? Seeing none, moving on to APC. Councillor Cherry, January 20th, 2025.
Thanks, Mayor Sauls. As you attended and snuck into my meeting again, we looked at the inclusionary zoning and density bonusing project. This was more in relationship to stakeholder engagement. So the group was able to give some some options and suggestions on how the city can engage the public on this one. The second project we looked at was, again, the short-term rental project, looking for policy scenario feedback. There were a number of recommendations that were passed unanimously. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to ask, but they're written in a way you shouldn't need to. Very
All
direct.
right. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I am going to move on to the next one. Community Fire Smart and Resiliency Committee, January 21. Councillor Staples.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. It was our first meeting in quite some time, as they had taken off the time because most of them work in wildfires, so pretty busy. We did have a quick recap of the wildfire week of 2025 from Ms. Hamilton, and we have also extended an invite to Director Simon to come speak to the committee in regards to the Fire Smart landscaping bylaw. And yeah, we kind of set forward the schedule for the upcoming year, and setting some goals and some strategies on delivering another Fire Smart week.
Great, thank you. Any comments from council? Seeing none, Councillor Lucelle, Social Development Committee, January 28th.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Ms. McIsaac updated us on what she is working on, as well as the poverty reduction working group. We talked about our terms of reference, so the members of the committee were able to help us align that terms of reference for the best impact for the Social Development Committee to have things come back to council. Ms. Moffat talked about the status of the Indigenous liaison position. Since that hasn't been filled, they're looking to contract that out for any CED projects that need that specific lens. We talked about grants. Our new food security coordinator can come to this meeting, so she'll be coming in our April meeting. And then we talked about the Good Food Box program running through Community Connections.
Great. Any comments from council? Seeing none, I'll go on to Public Infrastructure Committee. We spoke briefly about the composting grant and how we're moving that forward, and looking forward to support. We gave support on that. Also update on the wastewater treatment plant upgrade. And we talked briefly about the pedestrian safety letter and the crosswalk at the Legion. So all those things we will be discussing a little further as we move along. Am I correct on that, Mr. Black?
You're correct, Your Worship.
Okay. Any comments from council? Seeing none, Ms. Delassalle, do we have any questions from the press online?
There are no questions from the press, Your Worship.
All right. Council, I'd like to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1 D and K of the community charter. Someone want to make that motion for me? Councillor Lucelle, seconded by Councillor Palmer. All in favor? Motion's carried. We're going to take a 10-minute break and come back in camera. Thank you.